Hello fellow sin enthusiasts, my name is Christina and welcome to another Let's Get Reelz movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing a documentary called Man in Red Bandana. It is the story about a 9/11 hero named Welles Remy Crowther. For those of you who are not familiar with Welles, he was a very true hero in the sense of the word, and this documentary takes you through his story and what heroic feat he did on 9/11. Welles Crowther grew up in Upper Nyack, New York, in upstate New York, for those of you who are unfamiliar. And he went to Boston College, he played lacrosse, he was a volunteer firefighter in his hometown, and after college he got a job working for a trading firm called Sandler O'Neill and the World Trade Center. He was in the South Tower, Tower 2 of the World Trade Center, up on, I believe, the 105th floor. There were 110 stories in the World Trade Center Twin Towers. One thing about Welles is that he always carried a red bandana. Always carried it with him. His friends, from the time they knew him, he said always had one. And the story of that is that when he was younger, his father had given him a red bandana because his father had carried a blue bandana. So after that, Welles just always carried one around, and that's what he was known for. And Welles's bandana actually came in handy for him on 9/11. On 9/11, the South Tower was hit second. The South Tower was hit, direct impact was on the 78th floor, which meant a lot of people from the upper floors could not get out. Welles actually was able to find a way downstairs. One of the flaws, if you want to say, in the design of the World Trade Center is that everything was in the middle. The stairways, the elevators, everything was in the middle. And that was because the architect and whoever went into the building of the World Trade Center, they wanted as much retail space as possible. So they didn't want stairs on the sides because they wanted to be able to sell, the office space. So all the stairs and the elevators were in the middle. Flight 175 actually took out this area where the elevator banks were. You had local and express elevators. So this is where you would switch from one to the other. A lot of people from above the impact zone, or what would have been the impact zone, were trying to get out, and they were obviously right in that place where the plane hit, and a lot of people were hurt, a lot of people died. Welles was able to somehow find a way out. He found one of the stairwells that wasn't damaged when the plane came and smacked right into the middle. And he found people that were still alive. He was calling to them. He said, if anybody is still alive, come follow me. I found a way out. And he was able to save at least 18 people that day. After 9/11, Welles's family didn't know what happened to him. They didn't know what he was doing, why he didn't get out. After he had left a phone message for his mom and said, I'm okay. The damage was in the North Tower. This was before the South Tower was hit, obviously. So Welles's mom would always go through the paper, always be looking for some kind of clue of Welles, just trying to find out what his last moments were, what he was doing, where he was, just anything. She was trying to look for some sign of her son. A few months after 9/11, Welles's body was found. He had been found in what was then the lobby of the South Tower, and he was surrounded by firefighters. Welles really wanted to be a firefighter. He did not want to be in this trading company, and he was waiting to see what he could do. He wanted to help. He had already helped so many people. He made 2 trips back up to the impact zone, and then he came all the way down to the lobby, and he was standing around firefighters and probably wondering what he could do. And his parents were terribly heartbroken. There was a memorial for Welles, and then his body was cremated and placed in a graveyard in Upper Nyack. So as I said, Welles's mom always searched for what happened to Welles, his last moments in the towers, just constantly, even after he was found. And eventually his mom found an article, a moment by moment article about what happened on 9/11. And she reads these two women were saved by a man in the red bandana. He had his red bandana covering his face like this, and he told them that he had found a place and to, he'll help them to get down the stairs. And it was just incredible. And his mom found Welles. She found out what happened to him through this newspaper article in the New York Times. Now, the story of Welles is one of courage, is one of bravery, and just an incredible story. He was a civilian. He wasn't even a firefighter. He could have gotten out. He was 9 seconds away from getting out. He could have ran out, but yet he stayed behind to help people because that is what he wanted to do. In his heart, he truly wanted to help people, and he became a hero that day. He became a hero for going into being able to get into this impact zone in this horrible, horrible situation and selflessly getting these people that he was able to save to safety. And that was just incredible to me. I think Welles, he deserves to be a hero. He deserves to be remembered. He was 24 years old when he died. And when I think back, I was 24, I was in college, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I was outrageously immature. So it's just amazing to think that this 24-year-old kid who was working in New York City in the Twin Towers, making incredible money, he was just so selfless, and all he accomplished, before he died. And his parents are carrying on Wells's legacy, his story of bravery, his story of being a true hero. And there's all kinds of games that are played in Wells's memory, like lacrosse games, there's football games, and there's the like a foundation that's set up. His whole life and his whole afterlife are very, very interesting. And he was just such a good person. He's a very good role model for kids. There is a children's book written about him by his sisters, and it's beautiful. The book is really, really nice. As I said, there's also a book called The Man in the Red Bandana, which is just amazing. It was one of the best books, best biographies I've ever read. And this documentary, Man in Red Bandana, is just wonderful. It is such a wonderful look at Welles and his life and his afterlife. Just totally perfect. And, it's interesting to see how his parents are doing, how they were doing in the days after 9/11, months and everything, and how they've just tried to cope with losing Welles. And I think through their foundation and everything, they're getting his memory out there. They see that their son was an incredible person. They probably knew that already, but they, from finding out what happened to him and what he did on 9/11, they just see how great their son was and how much he helped so many people to escape. I used to work at the National September 11th Memorial and Museum in downtown New York, and I really thoroughly enjoyed working there. I felt very honored. I had such an incredible experience, and one of the stories that all the visitors like to hear was the man in the red bandana. When I was walking around the memorial, I would usually always see a flag in Wells's name, because the pools that are in the footprint of each tower is called reflecting absence, and all the names are hollowed out. You can see the light comes through them at night. It's gorgeous. So people put flags in there, and they usually put a red bandana at night. So here's a little tidbit. At night, the memorials are cleaned off. Whatever was placed on the memorials in honor of the victims is taken off and then placed into the collections. And the collections people at the 9/11 Museum say they have so many red bandanas because people always bring red bandanas for Welles. Whenever I would tell Wells's story to others who were unfamiliar with him, they just can't believe it. They really like his story, and I always encourage visitors. When I was working there, I would always encourage visitors to read his story, research him, and just learn about him. His story is just one of many that day that were heroic and just absolutely incredible. So that was definitely more of a ramble of this documentary, Man in Red Bandana. You can actually order one of these red bandanas. I got mine when I went on a visit to the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. I got this to honor Welles, and I plan on honoring him every year, carrying this with me every September 11th from now on. And I really hope, if you guys are unfamiliar with Welles' story, that you do go check this documentary out. You can find it on iTunes. I watched it on iTunes. I rented it. It's available on DVD. You can purchase it on Amazon Prime and watch it on your computer. However you can watch this documentary, please go do it. Man in Red Bandana, absolutely amazing. It will pull at your heartstrings. It will make you believe in humanity, that there are genuinely good, decent people out in the world. Maybe it will make you want to be a genuinely good person and help out others that need help. So if you liked this review in any way of Man in Red Bandana, please give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments down below. If you maybe have seen Man in Red Bandana, if you do know the story of Welles Crowther, please leave it down below. I would love to discuss anything about Welles Crowther. If you guys have any questions about September 11th, please no conspiracies. If you ask anything with conspiracies, I will delete them. That does not fly here. Let me know, and I'll help you out. I'll answer any of your questions you guys may have. I'm a wealth of information about the museum and some of the day's events and some of the victims and, you know, a lot of the firefighters and everything. Whatever you guys have questions about, please leave them there. And if you have any suggestions, be them documentaries, movies, TV shows, whatever you got, please leave them down below. And if I pick your documentary, movie, TV show, and I review it, I will give you a shout out. How awesome is that? And as always, keep watching movies and stay absolutely fabulous.